I apologize for those of you that are going to come to every concentration panel because you'll have to hear me give this intro 9 times. But my name is Mallory Stoffel. I oversee the Career Readiness Center, which we share a wall with. It's right next door, located in the Biz Lab from 300D. And we do a lot of things that help students explore career pathways, get the necessary skills to successfully interview, to navigate the career fairs, and all of those things to make the college to career transition. And one of those things is planning concentration panels so that you all get some exposure to potential career pathways, internship opportunities, coursework in each concentration so that you all can make a confident decision. That's what we want for you to make confident career decisions. So for those of you, how many of you are first quarter freshmen? Okay, nice, very proactive. I love to see it. How many of you are first quarter transfers? Okay, awesome. And then how many of you are second year students that started as first years? Yes, okay, perfect. So for those of you that are first quarter transfers or second year students, you have until May 31st, 2024 to declare. And then for those of you that are first year students, you have until May 31st of your second year to declare your concentration. So without further ado though, let's dive into the fun stuff. We have 4 incredible panelists here today to talk about information systems. So before we dive into our questions, I have a list of questions here. This is way more fun if you all ask questions along the way. Maybe we'll have our panelists call on you and, get some audience engagement. But we'll go through kind of some of those main topics. So please, if you have questions about anything that come up, just hop in. So let's go ahead and kick it off with some intros. So we could start with you. So if you want to start with name, year, major concentration, do you have any minors, and then involvements on campus.
Awesome.
And a fun fact.
And a fun fact. Hi everyone, I'm Alex Baroy, and I'm a 3rd year business administration major with shocking a concentration in information systems. I have a minor in ethnic studies as well, which I can talk about and highly recommend. On campus, I'm involved as an associate consultant in Mustang Consulting. I am a career peer, Mallory and some others in the room. And then I'm the treasurer of the UK Student Union, which is an off-campus culture club. Fun fact. Oh, this is a fun fact. I was born with an extra thumb, which I no longer have, but unfortunately, it's kind of a bummer. It was my decision.
Yeah, it's okay. I feel like you would have been, if you're already so productive, but like with an extra thumb, you would have been like even more productive than you
wrote like a second email.
You could have, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That's off.
Okay.
My mentor.
Thank you. So Alex Manesi. My name is Jasmine Lay. I'm a 4th year business IS major with a minor in psychology. I'm originally from Seattle, Washington. On campus, I'm currently the VP of recruitment for Mustang Consulting. I'm also the VP of membership and marketing for Alpha Kappa Psi, along with Kenny Lissa. And then I'm also work at the multicultural business program as an intern. And I'm also a UX designer for Iterate and I'm part of TDSA. Oh, and fun fact, I do tarot card readings.
What?
Yeah, I just got back into tarot card readings. So any of you want to read anytime.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Kenny. I'm a 4th year business IS major from Palo Alto, California. I was the director of the student director of the Cal Poly Foundation for 2 years on campus, director of the entrepreneurship club on campus, recruitment chair for the community service org on campus. I'm also part of the ADSI. And fun fact, I went semi-viral on Reddit dancing with President Armstrong. That went disco.
That's a very fun fact.
My name is Alyssa, also IS. I'm from San Diego, California. Involvements, I'm a project manager at the Digital Transformation Hub. And fun fact is I'm left-handed. I don't know anything else that's zazy, but yeah.
Thank you all. I want to also shout out, all of you are quite involved. And just a few years ago, you all were in these seats. And so if it feels like this is a lot, just know that all of these students have just taken advantage of a lot of the opportunities that have been available on campus and have shown up and put themselves out there. And they're going to talk about that throughout the panel, but they were all right here not that long ago too. So, all right, so let's go ahead and dive into some of our questions. So just to kind of kick us off, how would you, I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions around information systems, but how would you describe the concentration to someone who knew nothing about it? And what are there any like myths or misconceptions about information systems? You can go in any order.
get started. I think people think it's like CS, but I wouldn't even like put that in the same realm. Like it's just business with like this in tech industry, like very like low level. So like you learn Python and stuff, but it's not anywhere near like a CS major's like threshold.
I would agree. It gives like a very broad introduction to tech, more in like the sense of what engineers are like facing and a little bit about how to manage them and like manage technology a little more. I don't think it gives us like enough experience in terms of like building all of the technology, but it definitely gives you enough understanding, to, like understand it and know how to manage it.
I would just add on to saying it's like a light intersection between business and tech, and then opportunities in like UX design and project management.
Yeah, I echo that. I kind of took an approach of IS as more of a data-driven background. I feel like you learn Python, you learn R, you learn SQL, which really help you if you're going towards like a data analyst route. But honestly, like everything in tech is getting more and more data-driven. So regardless of which path you choose in that direction, IS is going to help you.
Before we dive into your individual career pathways, what are some just key buckets that you see, like large, big picture? What are some key like pathways that you see IS students going into? Because I think that could be the challenge, is that it's so broad, you could do literally anything. So what are kind of the themes that you see with your peers?
I'll kick this off. Due to my first experience, a big bucket is consulting. Broadly, like across all of consulting, IS can get you in. We see a lot of tech consulting. We see a lot of like just consulting. It's really broad in that way.
I was gonna add on with Alex consulting, and then also UX UI design. I feel like it's super underrated. OCOB doesn't really offer as much opportunities for that, but I feel like a lot of information system students have a lot of opportunities there if they build that skill set on the side.
I feel like Big Four, a lot of people go to Big Four from IS, business analyst or data analyst. Yeah.
I think PM is a potential route. It's like very competitive, but it's still like an opportunity can go into if you choose IS.
IS students have pursued more technical roles as well. It usually just requires intentionality around your minor and or developing some of those more technical skill sets outside of the classroom. So I know some have gone into like QE, quality engineering, and much more like coding roles, but it's not as typical. Yeah. Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about your decision-making process. So how did you know this was the right concentration for you? Are there certain experiences or involvement or things that you did that were helpful in exploring IS and then knowing that it was the right fit?
Okay, if we're going in order again. Honestly, this concentration panel, I was here last year, and it really solidified IS for me. I was really interested in like Big Four consulting and MPD consulting. If you guys have any familiarity with that, and like just looking on LinkedIn, I saw it was like a good mix of concentrations, but a lot of them were IS, and I've always had like an interest in technology. But honestly, the thing that sent me over the edge was sitting here and hearing Ed talk about being an IS and how it helped him. Ed is an alumni who was at Boston Consulting as well, and is working at Bain & Company. And he, like listening to that concentration panel and hearing about his experiences, because he went through finance, IS, and accounting before deciding on IS. I think he was declared officially for all of them. So just hearing a little bit more about his journey landing on IS really helped me. And honestly, like I love technology, so just learning more about it was always super interesting.
Yeah, for me, I was so torn between marketing and information systems. I waited until the week before the deadline to decide actually, and even after I clicked like information systems, I was still like, oh, did I make the right decision? And I can say I personally do think I did. But I got a lot of support from my mentor in Boston Consulting, Lauren. She used to work for like peer advising too. But we had meetings and she was like, maybe do a pros and cons list of all the concentrations I was interested in. And then I think I was just going with her like the day before I clicked that sign button, someone overheard us and I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to do information systems or marketing. And he just turns around and goes, do IS. And that made me like think of that. Yeah, this is my sign. I went to the IS panel as well, also talked to Ed a lot. I had coffee chats with people who were in that concentration. And I just really loved how broad it was, especially as I am a very indecisive person. I want to have a lot of flexibility in the career paths I want to go into after, whether it be business analyst or UX UI, or like PM, like Kenny and Alyssa mentioned earlier. That's how I decided.
So I actually first declared entrepreneurship. I came into Cal Poly with a dream to open a restaurant, and that's still my dream actually. But with like COVID and how impacted restaurant businesses were, I thought I kind of want to start out of college with a more risk-averse path. IS just had like a mix of really interesting topics, but also gave me like a technical foundation to do whatever I wanted to do in the future. So yeah, I'm going down the IS technology path right now, but I do want to go back to the restaurant industry in the future.
I think for me, I was choosing between IS and finance because I thought those were the most the most technical concentrations in OCOB. And I took my first finance class and I did not like it. I was like, this is not for me. And and I was like, oh, maybe not. And then I did IS and I was like, oh, this is like more, like it appealed more to me. So just choose what you're interested in rather than like, oh yeah, I want this side, I will take this concentration.
One thing I'll actually add to that
Yeah.
is that if you're really set on a concentration and the first class discourages you, obviously like you can take it as a sign, but also like if you're still set on it and like everything, I would not be too worried about it. I did not love my 391 class, to be fully transparent. It was like a 6 to 8. I was not having the most fun and I did a lot of Pearson homework that I didn't love. So I would just like, they're great tests and a great opportunity to explore. But like, if you're still really interested, go and take the second class or go and explore it some other way. Don't let it completely determine it.
Yeah.
Yeah, along with that, my favorite professors were actually my marketing and IS, even though I didn't like love the class, I would talk to them a lot after class. And they gave me a lot of support and other resources to look into the concentration, because I would go up to them and say, I'm really debating between like marketing and information systems, like I don't know what to do. And they talked about their experiences, so I really recommend that. I still keep in touch with them, Professor Yin and Professor Gibbs. Yeah, I recommend it.
But I think it's really cool that each of you highlighted is that you use a different like set of values or priorities to make your decision, and all of those are valid and okay. So for one, it could be being really broad. Like I know that I like to have a lot of options in front of me, and that's a really great way to make a decision if that's something that's important to you. Or I have a very specific career goal. What is the concentration that best aligns with me getting to that career goal? Or, you know, like I want to build a foundation and a skill that's going to serve me later. So you kind of hear that each of them has their own unique set of values and priorities. And not one of those is like every single one of those is right. And so if one of those points resonated with you, then take note of that. Like, oh, I don't want to be pigeonholed into one specific job, or I actually want to have something that's a little bit less risk averse, those types of things. Okay, so let's dive into like a little bit more around the career buckets. Do you have any questions about IS in general or ways to explore information systems to make a decision? Yes.
What's UI design?
Oh yeah.
That's user interface. So UX is user experience and then UI is user interface. And it's like how you navigate like websites or apps.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the buckets and the job titles, and maybe like industries. So where are IS students ending up?
Online.
Anyway, we can spend
My first internship was with a defense company called Northrop Grumman, and then the most recent internship was with the tech industry at Apple. So I think it's like a variety. Like people are gonna, most companies are gonna be IS people, like the intersection, the middle person. So I think like you don't have to be like, oh, tech or defense. Like I think it's open to a lot of companies, like even healthcare, but like what's it? You know, like biotech companies, you can also work there too.
Can you share a little bit about like what a typical day looked like in those internships, or like what types of things you were working on?
Yeah, so for my internship at Northrop Grumman, I built like a Power BI dashboard, and I didn't have any like, it was my second year, I didn't have that much technical skills, so everything I learned was like on the job. I also did like kind of a case study on whether to do like test equipment rental as a direct versus indirect, which is more like managerial accounting area. So like you can go into these internships without knowing anything. You learn a lot. It's like your potential to learn is what companies are looking for. Even with Apple, like during my interview process, they asked me if I knew SQL. I didn't, and it was like being honest. And they're like, "Oh, well, I'm going to teach you it, and if you can comprehend this, and then repeat back to me what you learned, then you can kind of like I can see like how you can learn and stuff." And I like, oh my god, it's so like it was fine then. But I think a lot of it is like more learning and being open to like meetings. Like, a lot of it was meetings for me, kind of like getting knowledge from other people, meeting with other teams.
They did that in the interview, they like told you something about people, then you had to.
Yeah, so like it was my final round and they were like, oh, like, do you know any SQL? I was like, I'm not confident with it, like not on my resume. But like, okay, like, let me like give you a scenario. I'm gonna ask you this question and if you can answer, like, yeah, you're good. Like it was very like on the fly kind of thing.
Yeah, that's. Please start.
Yeah, so all of my internships have been in the technology industry. 2 years ago, I interned at Spectrite, which is a startup in SoCal, and they're a Salesforce partner. So I was working with the Salesforce application and building workflows in that. And I actually really like that. I like the startup culture and how fast it moves. And then I kept like switching like what I wanted to do just within the realm of IS. And last summer, I was a data analyst intern at Veritas Technologies up in the Bay Area. That also used a lot of SQL, and I was right after I took my SQL class, so it's perfect. And a lot of Power BI. And then this previous summer, I was a product manager intern at HubSpot. They're also a CRM tech company, but they're based in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I was working in the cybersecurity space. So that was a lot of like working with engineers and designers and like developing like a solution to a customer pain point and building that out. And that's where I'm returning full time.
Can you speak a little bit, just in, I think you're the only one on the panel that has the data analytics experience. Can you, I know that, are any of you interested in data analytics? So the career path, yeah, I hear that a lot from students. Want to talk to that experience a little bit?
So it's really cool if you like problem solving. So I had like one main really big project at Veritas where I was essentially, we had sales engineers, we had salespeople and we had sales engineers, but there was no data around the sales engineers and their pipeline and how they were doing. So I had to essentially create those reports and dashboards by connecting, there was like 12 data sources. Veritas is a data enterprise company, but their data management sucks. So honestly, in the beginning, because they're a very old company, I spent a lot of time trying to get access to the right data, trying to clean the data, trying to merge the data. But then after I got through those hurdles, it was pretty cool. I got to work with like data scientists and figure out how to like query the data with SQL, Power BI, and a couple other like technical things that I actually learned on the job, which is pretty cool. I knew nothing about Power BI before that. And yeah, it was cool. It was a big learning curve, but I really liked it. I would say I decided to switch to PM because I'm more of a people person, and with data analytics, you're more working by yourself or with other data analysts. But yeah.
And then a last quick question for you, because I get it a lot from students, is why would an IS student be competitive for a data analytics internship or job as compared to a stats student? And what are like the key differences between data analysts and data scientists?
That's a good question. Yeah. I actually don't know the level of competition between stats majors and IS, but I think IS, like you have like the background to do the stats. Like I had a class on SQL and that's like the language they wanted me to use. But they also liked that I had a background in like business analyst roles in the past, which helped me to understand the roles I was helping for. And then between the data analyst and the data scientists are much more technical than a data analyst. So my mentor was a data scientist and he was like way smarter than me. Like I had like Zoom meetings with him where he was just telling me like how to code certain things. So they're more of like a coding front. I'm more of like the strategic front, like what kind of insights do we want from the data and how do we work with other people to get there? Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I know I work with a lot of with IS students too. It's like understanding that you're still a business major. And so that can work in your favor. So you can understand the data through the lens of business and making business decisions and that strategic thinking, which would be a unique value add as compared to a staff major. Okay, so maybe you have a question. Hopefully it's a little bit. Yeah. That's my thing.
Well, I'm kind of the all in all because I'm actually working in social media marketing role right now. But they like that I was information systems that concentrate here. But in terms of like my other experience, for Weston Consulting, some of our clients have been in the tech industry and we help them like build databases or like different models And for Iterate, which is like a UX design club on campus, I worked with like the Kennedy Library to redesign their website, like their user interface. As well as you guys like know Ride, the rideshare app. I helped design their mobile app this past spring. So super cool, got to work with the founders. They're from Cal Poly. And I also helped design some of their merch that's coming out too. So that's also been super cool, but that's a variety of things you can do, like not, you can do that on campus. Like, don't worry about if you don't have an internship. I didn't find that internship till this year and I'm a fourth year. So yeah, you guys can still get a lot of experience on campus.
I love how you've integrated, you're still interested in marketing and you're just using technology and marketing, the intersection of like design to apply your interests through the IS lens. Like, it's awesome, yeah.
Oh, okay. So I came into Cal Poly very dead set on consulting. Honestly, without any of the knowledge backing, really like to back it up. But it definitely was like one of the reasons I picked Cal Poly, just because when you search on LinkedIn, there's a lot of Big Four present. And I was like, sure, seems like a good option. So I applied freshman year, which Mallory remembers. So like every freshman or sophomore, like consulting related internship that I could get my hands on. So I ended up doing PwC Start Consulting this summer, which I had lined up winter of freshman year. And I will say, like, it was super interesting. Big corporate America is definitely like can be a little challenging. Honestly, I really enjoyed my time. And one thing that is really interesting that we heard across the board was Power BI. And that was like 60% of my internship, which I totally did not expect. So as annoying as the Biz 215 Power BI bootcamp is, it made my internship so much easier, especially combined with like my experience in Mustang Consulting and that Power BI like workshop. I knew how to do everything I was asked of in my internship, and it was super cool. I got to work on a nonprofit client and like do a full on like set of recommendations. And one thing I like about like the sophomore internship experiences is there are a lot lower stakes. You aren't necessarily client facing. There's a lot of room for error, and the companies are really understanding with it, and give you like some options to explore. And then like coming out of PwC, I actually recruited for Bain as well. So then I ended up having to decide between a return offer at PwC and a Bain offer, and I'm going back to Bain and Company next summer. We'll be an associate consultant.
Making that Cal Poly pipeline.
Yeah,
We love
go
yeah.
between Ed and me and Sam.
Do you want to speak a little to like what you're in, like in consulting, what does that like a typical day look like? What are you
Yeah.
working?
So also like tied to IS, I
Yeah.
guess. Consulting is like it's consulting. You have a client and you are working on some strategic problem for them. So I decided on consulting, honestly, due to indecision mostly. Like I don't really know what I want to do in the future, but consulting, especially like broader strategy consulting, gives a really good insight into different industries because you're able to work on every like type of project that you even think of. The BNSF office works mostly in like private equity and tech. But the private equity companies that you're working for can be buying any private company doing literally anything. So like that was really appealing to me because I will get like broad exposure to different industries. And it is like generally structured as like 3 or 4 month engagements where you're working with the client and a team of like 6 consultants to just figure out any business problem that they could have. And I find that like really cool. I think I get easily bored and definitely want to have it's definitely going to be hard work and long hours. Full disclaimer. But I'm super excited about it. And the company culture seems super fun. Obviously there will be a lot of PowerPoints and a lot of Excel. But hopefully what I'm doing in those applications is different and like gives me a broad overview.
Do you mind speaking really quickly and then we'll have questions and talk about classes and all the other things? I know we're saying talk about something, but I know a ton of IS students recruit through the Big Four and go to tech consulting. Can you give just like a quick tech consulting versus management consulting and the key differences?
So I think one of the main misconceptions with like consulting broadly is companies are now using it to label nearly every role that is mildly consultative.
Like a sexy title.
Yeah, it's a sexy title and it draws a lot of appeal.
Yeah.
For tech consulting, there's a huge range within that. Personally, like for my PwC internship, I was handed a 12-page document with like every individual consulting line and 2 lines in 10-point font. And I think there were 80 different service lines that they could have gone into. So consulting is really broad. With tech consulting, it goes everywhere from like risk and business processes controls, where you might be doing code review or making sure like cybersecurity protocols are followed. Whereas like what I'm going into, which is like management consulting or like strategy consulting, is like C-suite level problem solving. Which is like a company will be like, our profitability is going down and we don't know why. And then you just dive in. Or it could be something like more directed, like, oh, we're acquiring this company. Or like we're thinking about acquiring this company. Should we do it? Should we not? And like what should we consider? So again, I will say like one like note of caution is with consulting, like dive more into the roles and specific service lines, because I do know people who have ended up in consulting roles that they did not and did things that they did not expect.
Yeah, thank you. The last career bucket that I want to touch on that I see a lot of IS students going into is technical sales. And we have a really amazing sales minor program. And so I find that when I talk to students that are interested in the technology, they love talking about technology, they love learning about technology. It's kind of consulting adjacent in that you're helping businesses solve problems, but you're just coming at it from the perspective of the product, right? So you're coming in and saying, here's how this product can help you solve your data problem. Here's how you can implement this new software to do X, Y, and Z. And so if you find that you want a really dynamic work environment, you like working with people, you might like that competitive environment of being able to get a ton of commission if you hit your targets. Like I do see a number of IS students going into technical sales. We have a pretty good pipeline into like AWS and some other big tech companies for that as well. Any questions about career stuff? I know we spent a lot of time talking about this, but that was like such a good rundown of options. That was amazing. Yeah. Okay. We're talking about classes. Yeah, coursework. Oh yes. Hey.
I was just wondering, that's all not like early and all that, but for getting that exposure to where to recruit, where did you find the most productive outlets? Was it career fairs? Was it networking within your involvements on campus? Was it online applications? Where would you focus your time if you could go over it?
For me, it was all of the above, to be very honest. All of my first and second year opportunities came from, I think, Careers and Accounting Day. Just going networking with recruiters, asking them what options they had depending on my year. And that really worked. And then for Bain, it was recruiting through Mustang Consulting. Our managing director last year started full-time yesterday at Bain. So I think it's honestly involvements are a great place to start and like figure out your interests and then target it. And then networking through your involvements will like give you an idea of where to go, like whether like career fairs are the best place to start, which for Big Four I think is absolutely true, but other industries like UX UI, it's no much happening.
Yeah, I was gonna say I never go to career fairs personally because I do not want to work in the Big Four personally, and mainly those are the only people who consistently come to those opportunities. So it was like a lot of word of mouth. It was a lot of like my friends reaching out to me. Like I remember second year, I was telling Melissa I was so stressed about not getting an internship, and she started sending me job applications on LinkedIn, the LinkedIn and handshake, and also like sitting down with friends and applying with them, and they like, I saw this opportunity, I thought you'd be great for it. So definitely talking to people around you and letting them know ahead of time what you're interested in.
Yeah, I feel like. Okay. At least in the beginning, I primarily used LinkedIn and Handshake, and like I cold message a lot of people on LinkedIn, the companies I was interested in. And then after like the first or second job, I feel like I started to learn more about the industry and like partners and other companies. And then I just started applying through their direct websites and career job sites.
Like for me, my second year, I applied to like 400 companies and I've already 2 interviews. So like that was bad. I would not recommend that. But then, okay, so those are my year. Like I think EY came and I talked to them. And then I ended up going to Denver for a Women in Tech conference, and I got a final interview for EY Tech Consulting. And then like Adobe also came to Cal Poly to do their information system. And then I also got an interview for technical account manager internship. And then I also got that offer. So like it's just like when the companies go and like they're wanting to recruit Cal Poly students, I think you should take note of when companies that you're interested in are coming to Cal Poly.
Yeah.
What is the Big Four exactly?
Thank you for
Okay,
asking
okay.
that question. Yeah.
So the Big Four is like, their main offering is accounting. So they're the largest four accounting firms in the world, at least
Mhm,
definitely in the US. But they offer like a really wide range of services. So they like it's audit, tax, and then consulting or advisory. So they have those three service lines. Consulting is definitely growing, or at least what they're labeling as consulting is growing through Big Four. So yeah, they're like the biggest like professional services, so they're hired by other companies. To do work.
It's like, we're keeping our books. Is it accurate? So having like a third party review and make sure they're in compliance with law, like federal tax law and things. Yeah, and then with the consulting, it's like that, okay, hey, we need to implement this new system or technology and we need to make sure the data is accurate and matches what it's supposed to. That's kind of what the consulting looks like, is like combing data and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. Thank you for asking that question. It's so easy for us to use like this language of
Yeah.
Big Four and like, yeah, exactly. So the Big Four, Deloitte, EY, KPMG, and PwC, and you'll see them recruiting on campus a lot.
It'll be everywhere.
And like for those of you that are in your second year and for transfers who are feeling a little bit of that recruiting pressure, it is a great place to recruit. Careers in Accounting Day will be in winter, and there's a lot of opportunity for students through those companies, just because we have crazy recruiting pipelines and we have such a strong alumni network that it's something that's really accessible for students of career opportunities. But yeah.
Just really quickly, I think what you mentioned, PM career, utilizing information systems, what would be the advantage of concentrating information systems over any of the other ones, as far as the creative kind of career goes?
Yeah, I think IS equips you with like the data background, like with PM. I feel like we make a lot of our decisions based on data, so that was really helpful. And then I'm gonna be honest, a lot of companies only hire PMs with an engineering background, so it is a little bit harder to get in from a business background. But out of all the concentrations within business, I found IS to be the most helpful.
Most like related to engineering, most related to engineering in a way.
Like IS,
Yeah.
I would say so.
You can like talk the talk more.
Yeah, like
Because you're managing engineers. As a PM.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good question.
That being
It's
said,
a hard
I don't know
one.
how to code like them, but
Yeah.
yeah, if I'm talking to them, I can at least somewhat understand their jargon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, do y'all know Amy Rue? Amy Rue,
It's like so famous.
she's amazing. Yeah, so she's a Cal Poly alum and she has she's put a ton of stuff out. She works at LinkedIn, but she's put a ton of stuff out on how to get into PM from a business background. And she's published a bunch of articles on LinkedIn. So definitely Amy, RYU, I think.
I'm sorry.
RU, thank you. Yeah,
She's
anyway, you can find her on LinkedIn.
product, like one of the main product management creators.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's doing a good job. Okay, let's talk about classes, because I know like all of this stuff can be a lot to wrap your mind around as like first years. Be like, I don't know what I want to do with my career. I don't even know what all these acronyms are. What do your classes look like? What are some projects that you've worked on? What has like stood out? Any particular like notable faculty that you want to shout out? Yeah, and then feel free to jump in with any other questions.
Yeah, I'll start. As a third year, I honestly have not taken that many IS classes.
Yeah.
I've taken like 2 fully, I'm in one right now. So I don't know if I've done any projects that are really relevant to IS. I think obviously all of my like professional experience projects, shout out to Mustang Consulting. I've definitely come through there with like real clients. I'm excited for like my IS electives, because you definitely get to choose a little more about like what interests you. Because definitely for me, like the coding side is not my jam. I took this 92, got through it, and it was super interesting. It's not my passion though. I do not want to do that for the rest of my life.
Question, do you need to have a coding background to get into IS or do you have to enjoy it to like, I hear that question a
Not
lot.
at all.
Cool. Thank you.
I like all the coding classes start from the very basics. I had not touched code since 4th grade, so don't worry. And I did very well in class, so I would not be worried about that. I'll let the 4th years talk a little more about the classes.
Okay, yeah, I also am not a fan of 392, but that was also a different coding language than 393, which was SQL, and I really enjoyed that class. It was also more visual. I loved the way that Professor
Yeah.
the way he taught it. I really liked how he would like draw everything out, even though it would like hurt my hand. I would look through my notes and remember everything later, especially for the exam. And now I'm doing a SQL certification with Alyssa for our senior project. So building those hard skills. But my favorite was definitely like 394, which is systems analysis and design. Kind of similar to that visual aspect where you have to draw out like how everything connects to one another. But our final project was to work with like a small business or like a company and like redesign something for them. So my group did UPS because one of our group members worked there. And I got to use Figma and build out a working prototype of the new website. So if you like click somewhere, it would like lead you to the different pages. And that's something that I've shown in my interviews along with like my portfolio, like a class project and real life work.
I was in a class, the UX is really good. I would say my favorite two classes were also 393 and 394. I like how like SQL is like technical, but professors then structure the class where you don't even touch SQL until the second half of the course. The first half, you're just understanding like the business structure, and how that plays into it. And then, yeah, like I just like the versatility of all electives. Like you can literally choose just two of all of those options. And I finished all my IS classes already. So if you have questions, you can ask me later.
I like 392, controversial. I really did like it. I took AP Comp Sci in high school and I was like really similar and familiar to me. And I was like, oh, I can kind of do this. I did not know. I didn't like 393 at all. But I'm getting the cert because I've seen like a lot of companies like the sequel. So I'm like, oh, it's more useful. So I think it's more applicable to what I'm looking for in a career path. I like 394 is like my favorite class. Like that class is really what I did in my internship at Apple. So I highly recommend Professor Wilson's like really amazing. Like I don't know, I went to class, I was like super engaged, really interested in what he was teaching. I did not like 399 or 499. I think that's just not my jam. It's like cybersecurity and networking stuff. It's very technical, a lot of condensed information rather than like projects and hands-on, in my opinion. But I think a lot of people have heard for electives, people analytics is like the best. Like I've heard everyone like, we'll take that class. But I think one thing to take note is that some classes are only offered in certain quarters. So plan it out if you're like interested in a certain elective and you're like 4 years better than that.
Right. I'll also add like the coursework you do in class, like the projects you do in class are very different than the projects you do in the workforce. So like I took SQL and it was like really cool to learn, but it was like I used it in a totally different way when I was actually using it at work. So if you do like the programming languages you're learning and you want to apply that to the internships you're gonna get, then it would be helpful to get like an extra taste of it outside of school.
You mentioned senior projects. I'm gonna touch on like what do senior projects look like in IS?
Yeah, I'm graduating this quarter, by the way. So I'm like, but my senior project was like not IS related that much. I did a food truck business plan, and yeah, so I was able to like talk to the professor ahead of time and do something that was more passionate towards like what I was looking to do in the future. I don't know how much IS related that project to be honest.
I think it's pretty open.
It was really versatile.
Yeah.
And I love that because yeah, it just enabled me to like think about like everything around creating a business. And like from like pricing, like you research like the pricing to like a 5-year plan and all that good stuff. So that's like a little thing I have for the future when I want to open a restaurant.
I'm doing a SQL cert with Jazzy, so like I said, it's like I think senior project you have to plan out like how many hours you put in. There's an hour requirement in that project, but it's pretty open-ended and Professor Lee Chen is pretty flexible as long as you like have like a layout and like talk to him. Like I think it's very it's super open. Like he gives you a list of certifications you can choose from depending on what you're interested in. And for us, like we wanted more technical skills. So he recommended the SQL one. I know that people do like cybersecurity, Tableau, and then some people are doing actual projects. I know some people are interested in UX/UI because they took 394 and that's like the first time they're exposed to it. So if you're interested in that too, you can like work with a business, I think, or like someone who needs a redesign.
I'm a figure, I have no insight on it.
You've got time. Any questions about coursework? You also more like fun if you have questions. So, why don't we can talk about ISA, but then also just in general involvement, like what has helped you kind of from this point, if you're like, okay, IS sounds really interesting. what are some spaces where you can get connected and get involved, like as next steps?
This will be mildly a shameless plug.
Yeah.
We are running Mustang Consulting recruiting until Saturday. We have our last info session today. We can like have some workarounds if that doesn't work for you. So
2 to 2:30
2 to
today
2:30.
in room 207.
Okay. But it has been by far like one of my best professional experiences and like social and professional, like personal experiences. You get to work with different clients every quarter and have like an amazing network of people. Like I think my most IS related like project was I got to work on a AI power dialer startup in spring and like work on their pricing and stuff like that, which was super, super interesting and definitely I got a ton of insight on like the tech startup world and how that runs. But it's really just a broad opportunity to like get involved and like do literally explore any business interest you have. And I realized I didn't preface what Mustang Consulting was before that pitch. If you want to do it, you want me to do it.
Yeah, I can do it. So System Recruitment, we're a pro bono student-run consulting firm on campus. And we work with over like 25 clients now in SLO and outside of SLO. So like accounting firms, that startups that we've talked about before. Right now, we're working with a nonprofit in Kenya, saving the rhinos. Saving the rhinos. But yeah, we have a lot of students who are super driven, hardworking, cross-disciplinary, all over campus. We have workshops coming up with EY and Deloitte. So case prep workshop with EY this Thursday virtually, and then a Deloitte resume workshop on Friday. So great way to get involved. I really highly recommend you apply, even if you're a little bit interested. I applied 30 minutes before the deadline, and look where I am now. No one can yeah. But
What's your like, I assume probably everything's on Instagram or like links for the application and info session and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's your handle? What's the?
I think I must be consulting.
Oh, I want to.
And then my other boards, I highly recommend like Iterate if you're either mildly interested in UX design. They're open to all majors. I was like, when they first found it, there was only 2 business majors, and that was me, and then one other girl. But it helps a lot. Like they love having business majors because now they're working with real life clients and they need that background. So if you're interested, please do it. They're doing a UX bootcamp this quarter. So if you want to learn about Figma, I know Adobe just got rid of their version of Figma and they're fully taking over Figma and incorporating it. So if you're getting into that industry, it's a very valuable skill to have right now.
Nice. Yeah, I must think something super cool. I never had the opportunity to do it. But if you guys do, you should check it out. I really like the entrepreneurship club. I was on board for them for 2 years, and I feel like I'm just passionate about working with smaller companies because I feel like you get to wear multiple hats, you get to move a lot faster. It's not as much of a waiting game as working with corporations. And like the startup club or the entrepreneurship club, like we get so many cool speakers both in and out of SLO. And I just like hearing their stories. We also have free pizza every Tuesday. I'm not part of the club anymore, but I'm going to the meeting tonight, 6 to 7 every Tuesday. And like I met a lot of really ambitious people. I like how not everyone there is IS, people who aren't even in business, but you get to meet people who want to go in a similar path as you. And I have friends who like did the summer accelerator program this summer where they got like $10,000 and they're like about to get another 20K in funding. So like he's starting like a pineapple juice company. Like that's dope. And yeah, he was on board with me. And then yeah, you know Tapina. Shout out Tapina. And then APSI is a professional business fraternity on campus, which that's what we're a part of. And there's a lot of IS majors in there actually, which just just like happens to be. But that's like a nice professional network I was able to gain too.
I wasn't involved in any clubs besides like, well, APSI is not really, it's an word, but one thing I want to highlight was career connections. So like when I first was the 2nd year, I think I applied and I got a mentor, and it's like I think it's really hard to like build a resume and stuff when you don't know what you're doing. And having that one-on-one with someone who's already in the industry, I think is really helpful. So I think that gave me like the boost for like my career.
All right, so we do have a general information systems club called ISA. The information is here, and that's a really great way. Like each of these involvements are a little bit more specific if you know what you're interested in, but if you're not sure what you're interested in, that's a great way to get a broader exposure to all the different pathways. They usually invite in a guest industry speaker, and we can get a little bit more information that way as well. Okay, So I like to leave a little time at the end in case you have any individual questions for our panelists. So let's give everyone a round of applause. So appreciate you all taking the time out of your day to be here and share your wisdom. For those of you who are attending more concentration panels, we have entrepreneurship this Thursday. Hope to see you all there. And then I'll continue emailing you all with upcoming schedules for concentration panels next week. And then as far as the recordings, I will post all of them at one time online after we wrap up concentration panels, so you'll find them. But with that, thank you all for being here. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. If you didn't sign in, please do so. I'll leave this up so you can do it on your way out. We'll send you the